Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I never thought humiliation would be loud. I always imagined it as something quiet, private, something you process alone on the drive home. I was wrong. Sometimes it shows up in a room full of people, wearing the voice of someone who claims to love you. My name is James. I'm 38. I'm not a model, never pretended to be. I'm average in most ways, average height, average build, a body shaped by long work days, skipped lunches, and a metabolism that stopped being generous sometime after 30. I used to be comfortable in my skin. Not proud, not insecure. Just fine. Elizabeth was the opposite. She was sharp, polished, effortlessly confident. She took care of herself in a way that looked intentional. Gym classes, curated meals, skincare routines she spoke about like science. When we met, she said she liked that I was real. I believed her. Maybe I needed to. For the first year, things were easy. She never commented on my body directly, just small suggestions masked as concern. You should drink more water. Maybe cut back on carbs. I didn't think much of it. Couples do that. Or so I thought. The comments changed slowly. Not in private, but casually in passing. At dinner with friends, she'd tap my stomach and laugh, saying things like, "This is what happens when you skip leg day forever." People laughed. I laughed too, because that's what you do when you don't want to look fragile. If this part of the story already feels familiar, please take a second to like this video so it can reach people who might be living through the same quiet discomfort. I told myself I was being sensitive, that it wasn't worth addressing, that bringing it up would make me look insecure. So I stayed quiet. Silence has a way of training people how to treat you. The night everything shifted was her birthday. Elizabeth wanted something low-key, she said. Just friends, drinks, music. Her apartment was full, the air loud with conversation and clinking glasses. I stayed near the kitchen, refilling drinks, playing a role I'd learned, useful, unobtrusive. Someone I didn't know well, one of her co-workers, asked how long we'd been together. Before I could answer, Elizabeth stepped in. "Almost 2 years," she said, then looked at me and smirked. Though I keep telling him if he doesn't start taking care of himself, I'm going to have to upgrade. There it was. Clean, public, intentional. The room reacted the way rooms do. A beat of silence, then scattered laughter. Not cruel laughter. Worse, uncomfortable laughter. The kind that lets everyone off the hook. I felt my face get warm. My chest tightened. I waited for her to soften it, to add a joke that pulled me back in. She didn't. She took a sip of her drink and moved on. In that moment, I realized something painful and clarifying. This wasn't a joke that went too far. This was how she saw me. And worse, how comfortable she was letting others see me. I didn't say anything. I didn't confront her. I stayed another hour, smiled when spoken to, cleaned up cups. From the outside, nothing was wrong. On the drive home, I replayed the scene over and over, not because it hurt, but because it explained so much. The casual dismissiveness, the way she corrected me mid-sentence, the way affection had slowly turned conditional. If you've ever had a moment like that, where one sentence rearranged how you saw everything, I want you to comment below and tell me which line in this story hit you hardest. That night, lying in bed next to her, I didn't feel angry. I felt empty. Something had settled into place. A quiet understanding that I'd been shrinking myself to stay acceptable. The next morning, Elizabeth kissed my cheek and asked if I'd had fun. I said yes, not because it was true, but because the truth had already made its decision. As you keep listening, ask yourself this. At what point does staying silent stop being patience and start becoming self-erasure? If that question resonates, type the word enough in the comments. After that night, I didn't confront Elizabeth. I didn't withdraw dramatically either. I just stopped volunteering pieces of myself for ridicule. I listened more than I spoke. I watched patterns I'd been excusing for months finally line up. She corrected my posture when we stood together. She commented on what I ordered when we went out. She framed everything as motivation, improvement, concern. But concern doesn't need an audience. Control does. The strange thing was how calm I felt once I stopped hoping she'd change. The anxiety I used to carry around her faded. When you accept that someone doesn't respect you, the confusion disappears. What's left is a decision. One afternoon, we met her friends for lunch. Midway through, she leaned over and said casually, "You know, if James cared half as much about his body as he does his job, he'd be unstoppable." She laughed. A couple people smiled politely. I didn't react. I finished my meal, excused myself, and walked outside. The sun felt sharper than it should have. That was the moment I understood something simple and irreversible. Staying was teaching her that this version of me was acceptable to mock. So I didn't announce anything. I didn't argue. I didn't demand an apology that would never mean what it should. I went home that evening and packed only what I needed. Clothes, documents, my laptop. I left the apartment key on the counter. No note, no explanation. Disappearing isn't about punishment. It's about reclaiming space. Elizabeth called that night. I didn't answer. She texted jokes at first, then confusion, then irritation. By the third day, the messages turned sharp. Accusations. Questions framed as insults. That told me everything I needed to know. If this part of the story made you feel that quiet sense of relief I felt walking away, please share this with someone who might need permission to choose dignity over familiarity. A week later, a mutual friend asked why I'd vanished. I didn't badmouth Elizabeth. I didn't dramatize it. I said, I didn't feel respected anymore. The conversation ended quickly. Truth doesn't need decoration. Elizabeth eventually sent one final message. "You really left over a joke?" I read it twice before deleting it. That's how these things get minimized. If you have to explain why something hurt, the person already decided it shouldn't. What surprised me most wasn't losing her. It was how much lighter life felt without constant self-surveillance. I started working out again, not to prove anything, but because I wanted to. I ate better. I slept deeper. My confidence returned quietly without an audience. If you believe public humiliation is never just a joke, comment below and share whether you think respect can exist without kindness. Let's talk about it. Months later, I ran into Elizabeth by chance. She looked me up and down like she used to. This time, I noticed how small that gesture felt. She asked how I'd been. I said, "Good," and meant it. There was nothing left to defend. Walking away doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like silence, distance, and a life that no longer includes people who mistake cruelty for honesty. If this story resonated with you, like the video, comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more stories about choosing self-respect when it's least convenient.